Ladies and gentlemen, folks, we're back again. Another episode as the Soul Sessions, the best show on Wrestling Republic, as always. But here we have a man who used to be wild, but now undesirable, Andy Roberts. Welcome to the show, pal.
Great, thank you for having me.
Absolutely my pleasure. But Andy, for our viewers who might not be familiar with yourself and your history, how did you get into wrestling to begin with?
Well, I've been around for some time now. I'm in my 17th year of wrestling, so different to what it's like now. There wasn't a lot of training schools in the area, and you had to kind of search out with. So I started my journey. I've got an English accent. I grew up in England, but I was living in Scotland when I started my wrestling journey. So I researched some schools. Again, I'd want people to do the same thing now. Look for the best school. Look for what you want to do, what they've done before, what their coaches have done. And I found Hammerlock. Hammerlock was also known as NWA UK, and they produced Zack Sabre Jr. and Finn Balor and Becky Lynch and people like that. At the time, they were breaking through into New Japan and a lot of big companies in Europe. So I seen them as the best place to go. So I started my journey down there with Hammerlock. Went to training weekends they were doing at the time, training camps, traveling down to Ashford and Kent to train with them, and that was the start of it for me.
Oh, well done there, pal. Absolutely. I mean, Hamlock, quite an establishment in itself. You mentioned Becky, Zack Sabre, and Finn Balor. Being at that kind of training place with such, excellent graduates coming out of it, was there a bit of pressure, or was it just like, just treat it as any other place that I can?
I think at the time for me, I didn't really. I was a WWE fan. I got into wrestling because I think like a lot of us, I love WWE. And then once you start researching, you see there's more outside of the WWE universe, and you can find other stuff. And independent wrestling is one of those things. So there wasn't a lot of pressure because whilst I knew who these people were. From researching it, I didn't feel that under pressure, but I saw this as like the start of something for myself. So I committed to it 100%. So there was a bit of pressure on that side of things. I wasn't going down just to do it as a bit of a hobby. It was the start of something for me.
Nah, mate, your utter dedication. You've went in there and you've done absolutely well for yourself as of now, Andy. But
Thank you.
Hamlock having all those. Was there any time you got starstruck? Did anyone walk in? You were like, "Oh shit, I know who they are."
Yeah. I mean, like as on the first camp, not so much. Like I said, because I was a WWE fan.
Mm-hmm.
But then I met a lot of the guys, and there was a big drinking culture back then in wrestling. It was like I didn't realize it was like, yes, we're going to train during the day, but we're going to drink hard during the night. So they were like, oh, what about ROH? What about this? What about that? And I was just like, sitting at this table going, oh, I'm not really sure what these things are. So then as I started to understand who the people were, by the time I came back for the next camp and people like Zack Sabre Jr. and things were there, I started to realize like, oh, right, okay, I'm around people that know what they're doing. And I think you're a lot of what you surround yourself with, and surround yourself with people like that. There wasn't really much chance that you weren't going to do well, I feel.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely, pal. You mentioned obviously, loving WWE to start off with and then branching out. Was there anything branching out either to Ring of Honor, New Japan, or anywhere else that kind of took you in like, oh wow, I really love this shit now. This is key.
Yeah. I think ROH caught me at the time because I feel like ROH, the wrestlers in ROH did a really good job of using the best of the WWE wrestlers as they made their way up through the ranks. If that makes sense, you know what I mean? Like Danielson and people like that, they were using a lot of stuff that you hadn't seen before. But when you actually look into it more, it's just Regal and Finlay and people like that they weren't showcasing that style in WWE, but it's what they were famous for before they got to WWE. So it opened the doors for me of like, oh, research this, research that. There wasn't YouTube and things like that. I think Daily Motion had started coming through. This is MySpace days, this is 2005, 2006. So it was like I'm on MSN and Mark Andrews would send me a video which would take me like 2 days to download. Mum would be really annoyed because I was using up all the internet, and I download this video. The first one that I got, Zach sent me his match with Danielson at Triple X, and it must have taken 2 days to download this match in front of like 17 people in a British Legion. Mom just couldn't understand why I wanted it so bad so that I could watch it. But yeah.
Well, hey, I mean, that 2 days would have been worth it for Zack Sabre Jr. Danielson. Ooh,
absolutely.
Boy, man, that's worth
I'm surprised. I'm surprised it hasn't turned up somewhere on a YouTube or something. I don't know. I've never really looked for it, but what a match it was. It was. You could see that like Zach was going to be something,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, who knows, Andy? Maybe it's on some random hard drive or floppy disk in your house.
It's got to be. It's got to be.
That's going to be worth money, mate. Get that on eBay and you were fun watching.
Absolutely.
But obviously going for training and all that, and being a WWE fan at the beginning, was there any wrestlers you idolized and trying to copy a style with, or feel like I love them, I want to do that style for my wrestling?
Absolutely. I was captivated as a young wrestling fan by cruiserweight wrestlers. But then as I started to train and started to learn the British style and learn from people before me and break out from WWE and look elsewhere, I started to realize that whilst I loved high flying wrestling and cruiserweight wrestling, it was actually the people that were holding them down and putting holds on them, your Dean Malenkos and your William Regals and your Fit Finleys and people like that. They were the ones that I was like, oh God, that's what I enjoy watching. It was like a surprising moment, like whilst I enjoyed the high spot, I think as I learned and I understood wrestling, I understood that like the build up to that is completely on the other guy, So, yeah, they were the ones that kind of got me into it.
Oh, hey, well done, mate. And obviously you being a big WWE fan, you would make your NXT UK debut against Kenny Williams.
Yeah.
For being a fan to making a debut on a brand of WWE, that's got to be a highlight for you, my friend.
Oh, it's the best thing I've ever done. I mean, I couldn't believe it. It was a real emotional experience for me. I mean, the match was 5.5, 6 minutes long, but I must have cried for about 25 minutes after the match. I had a good 10 minutes of just standing in a cupboard, just like asking people just to leave me for a minute, just so I could kind of just take in what had just happened. And then I phoned my partner, I've been with for 12 years. She's kind of dedicated her life and our family's life to me as well. So it was a lovely moment to speak to her and tell her how well it went. And yeah, it was amazing. Shawn Michaels and Matt Bloom were our producers, and they spoke to us over the kind of the sound system and things. It was just one of those moments where I was like, I can't believe I'm standing here. I can't believe I'm standing here taking compliments from Shawn Michaels, and I'm looking around and there's 20 cameras looking at me and there's WWE logos everywhere. It was just one of those moments where I was like, this is what I've worked for all this time. This is the 9:30 at night in the gym going, what am I doing? And this is the missing stag do's and birthdays and things like that. And just it all kind of paid off in a 5-minute enhancement match, in what it was.
Well, hey man, you've paid the way, you've paid your dues, and you got there in the end. I mean, I couldn't imagine meeting Shawn Michaels. Did you expect that? Did you know he was there, or were you just like, oh shit, that's Shawn Michaels?
Well, this was smack bang in the middle of COVID era. So Shawn Michaels and Matt Bloom were in America. The feed was via webcam and like live feed to the studio in America. So I didn't get to speak. I didn't get to see him or anything like that. They said when I went out from a match, look, obviously I was there to do my job, and my job was to enhance Kenny as he moved into a different role in the company. So it was very much a look. When the match finishes, you just stand out the way. They may speak to Kenny, they may not. They're probably not going to speak to you, but just stand there quietly until they shout cut and then move backstage. There was no fans or anything like that. So when the match finished, I was overwhelmed with emotion anyway, and I was just kind of standing at the sideline with the referee, Rick Swift, and he was just like, "Look, just stand here, pal." And they were talking to Kenny, and then Shawn addressed me, and I was like, it was one of those moments again where I'm standing there thinking, God, there's cameras on you. Just hold it together. You only need to hold it together for another 30 seconds, then you can kind of let it go. So as soon as I went backstage, everybody was being very nice and complimentary of the match. So they wanted to come over, and everybody knows how much it means to me as well. A lot of them have been my friends for a long time. So they wanted to congratulate me, and I just kind of needed a little minute just to digest what had happened.
Of course, absolutely. I mean, how did that offer come about to begin with? Was it just something you were advertised, like it came email, or was it just you heard from word of mouth during the COVID time, or how did that come to be?
Well, it was actually Johnny Moss, who is the who was the NXT UK producer and is now in NXT in America, is a Hammerlock guy. It's funny, like how you kind of make friends early on and just be nice to people and respect them. They respect you in return. And I've kept in touch with him somewhat over the years, but he's worked really hard to get himself into that role. And I just kind of I always constantly reach out. I put my students in, encourage my students to do the same thing. Constantly like update people on what you're doing. It's important to do so because there's so much out there. But I put a lot of work in over the COVID era. When I had time on my hands, I worked a lot of hours before that. So as soon as I had a lot of time on my hands, I just put it into my physique and my look, and it didn't go past them. They kind of must have seen what I was doing. And I got the message, just listen, are you interested in coming in and working with NXT UK? Which is obviously a no-brainer, So, I couldn't have typed back fast enough, to be honest.
Yeah, that email sent right away.
Exactly.
Now moving away from NXT UK, another famous company up here in Scotland, ICW. Glorious that it is, and I know you've wrestled for ICW for many times. Obviously, ICW. How did you initially get introduced to ICW?
Well, I've been with ICW pretty much since its inception. They did have a couple of shows. There was a couple of shows, I think, around 2005, 2006, and then obviously I don't know if you've seen the early pictures of ICW. There was maybe 10 fans there or something, and then they went away, and then they came back. I'd like to say around 2008, 2009, if my kind of chronological clock is working well. And I was training with PBW at the time. I had the chance to wrestle in a storyline in ICW against my coach at the time, which was Kid Fight, and then that went on to have me wrestle Liam Thompson. I had the match with Liam Thompson. The crowd were chanting, "This is wrestling," and Dallas kind of saw us at the time. ICW, every match was a hardcore. It was everybody utilized the rules of ICW. Myself and Liam went in there and did hold for hold wrestling match, and it got over with the fans. And Dallas saw it as something to put us into a best of 5 series match, and that was kind of the start for me. Liam is one of the best wrestlers in the country. Shame he's kind of moved away from wrestling now, but he was a very very giving opponent as well, and he wanted to see me do well. So in that best of 5, I managed to solidify myself as a talent in the country and in ICW, and I've been there ever since.
Oh, well done, my friend. Well done indeed. ICW has done so many great things through its years, from Joe Hendry and his legendary promos, Triple H appearing as well. That was a big shock for the whole crowd there. Finn Balor as well, and so many other great moments in ICW. To see that company's evolution, being there from the place of the inception, it must be such a prideful thing to see this company grow.
Oh, absolutely, and I enjoy the journey even now with ICW, because we've seen ICW go up and down and up, or what people perceive as up and down. Mm-hmm. Now we're at a stage now where after that COVID era, you've got this big group of young wrestlers that just want to do well and want to impress people and to do something and be part of something. And I was there when I was one of those young wrestlers who wanted to do well and be part of something. And because I believe everything Dallas says, because I've been there when he said it, and everybody, and myself included, have gone, right, okay, Dallas, you stand in the community center and he's saying, within a year, we're going to do this, and within a year, we're going to do that, and within a few years, we're going to run the hydro. And you're like, right, sound, man, no worries, But now when I hear him say that, yes, we've lost the WWE network. Yes, that's not happening anymore, but here's what we're going to do. And we're going to get to here. It's exciting for me to stand at the back and look at the young wrestlers and kind of taking the ones that are taking it seriously and taking the ones that are kind of rolling their eyes and be like, yeah, no problem, man. Because I've been there and I know that it's possible and I know what it takes to do it. And I'm excited to be part of rebuilding the ICW brand or kind of rebuilding is not the word, I've just said rebuild, but like reinventing is what I'm looking for, reinventing what ICW is now moving forward.
Yeah, I very much will say it could also be called reestablishing. You reestablish the foundations of the company from their time at the W network to coming off it. And obviously, it's a shock to me seeing ICW being moved off the network. And obviously there was a promo and all that was we do, basically saying, we were on the network, offered a lot of money, and then we were put on the shelf and never got on there. For you, Andy, do you feel like coming off the WWE network was kind of maybe a blessing in disguise to allow ECW its independence back and grow?
Yeah, I think it was the best possible thing that could have happened for talent at the time. I think that when they signed the deal with the network, I think that the plan of what we were going to do in that regard as to working with WWE and independent talent getting to work with WWE wrestlers and things like that was great. But because of COVID, that all had to pivot. And then I think all those different pivots has really hurt independent wrestling and hurt not the relationship or how that plan worked out. And it is what it is. I mean, some of these lads and lasses that have started for ICW have made their debut on the WWE network. You've got 7K footage to clip and put on your social medias. You've got a backdrop. You're wrestling in a studio. Yes, you're wrestling in front of 100 people, but these 100 people are turning up every 2 weeks to watch you wrestle, and they're invested in the storylines that are getting played out. So I think it is a blessing in disguise because it gives young wrestlers a chance to grow and evolve in a different climate where, yes, we might not be running as regularly. Yes, you might not be on the network. So it's going to be down to you to promote yourself and to build your character, because you're not getting this footage on a weekly basis handed to you, because that's how it was coming in an email. Here you go. Here's promo shots. Here's some clips. Here's your match. Here's how we want you to promote it. Go and do it. Now they're on their own back going, if you're hungry enough, because the fact of the matter is there's a big ICW roster, and not all of them are going to be able to get featured monthly in this new evolution of ICW. So it's going to be the hungry ones that are going to survive. So yeah, I think it's a great thing. I think it's a good opportunity for all of us to do more again and to see where it goes to.
Exactly. Who knows? Maybe you might be running the Hydro in a year's time.
Absolutely. I mean, you can mark my words. I think it will happen. I definitely think it will happen. I don't see why not. People saying that it's the same people that are saying that it can't happen are the same people that said it couldn't happen the first time round. So watch it happen. Watch us evolve. Watch us do it again.
Exactly, my friend. Exactly. You know, and maybe there's some people out there, you know, saying, why should I tune in to ICW? And to those people who are very on the fence, Andy, speaking to them directly, what would you say to them to come and watch an ICW show?
For the same reason they watched it the first time, because they were part of something. ICW is as much about the fans as it is about the wrestlers. It was a family, not only a family feel in regard, not to the style of wrestling that was going out, but the family feel was that we're all part of the show. The fans are part of the show as well as the wrestlers, so we can grow together, and that's what happened. I wrestled at the Maryhill Community Center in front of 100 people against Liam Thompson. Then I did that same thing in Studio. I can't remember what it's called. The next evolution of ICW was there was a nightclub downstairs by kind of Cineworld and Walkabout. I can't remember what it was called, but that was the next one. I wrestled him there in that 5 series. Then I wrestled him at the Cat House. I've wrestled him at the Garage. I've wrestled him. You know what I mean? Like, so we can be part of that, because the same people that saw that first match were supporting me when I walked out at the Hydro. So why don't you join now? Why don't you in 10 years time be able to say that I was there when the inception started again? Why was there when ICW reinvented itself? And I'm here now, waiting in the queue at the Hydro, and I'm as much part of this show as the wrestlers are, and I can enjoy that with them.
Exactly, guys. And you know, viewers, ICW have their Instagram, Insane Championship Wrestling, as well as their ICW On Demand. Check them out and support local Scottish wrestling, as always. Now, going into ICW as well, Andy, you've actually faced a previous guest of the show in Shay Monet in a few matches as well. You know, I just want to know, from your point of view, what's it like wrestling Shay?
Yeah, it was fine. I mean, it was a shame for Shay, because in the past before I made this decision to make a change to who I was, not just in ring and not just as a wrestling character, but in general as a wrestler. Had he got to wrestle me when I was Andy Wild, it would have been a very good experience for him. You know, he would have got a 5-star match. He would have got a handshake at the end. He would have been enhanced. He would have had lots of good footage to put out on his social medias. Everybody would have seen him as a better wrestler, because I would have made him a better wrestler. But unfortunately for Shay, in that match, that's not what I'm doing anymore. I'm, for the first time in 17 years, enhancing myself and working towards what I need from matches. So for what I needed at that point in time was to win, and I was going to do anything I needed to do to win, and that's exactly what I did.
Well, exactly, Andy. And you know, our viewers might not be familiar, but obviously you were Andy Wild before, now Andy Roberts. Cut that promo in ICW about basically going for yourself. Making that choice, was that an easy choice, or was it a bit of a hesitation to remove the Wild and embrace the Wild?
It was an easy choice. I think, like they say the term insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. So, but what's more insane than doing that in wrestling? You know, I've done the same thing. I've shaken hands. I've been nice. I've been respectful. I've turned up on time. I've been professional on social media, in person. I've presented myself well as a professional at shows, good gear, good shape. I've done everything you're supposed to do, and it doesn't always make a difference. It doesn't always get you there. So I'm 34 years old now. I've been wrestling for 17 years. I must be approaching 1,000 matches. And where am I? I've done 2 or 3 things with WWE. Yes, I've got my training school, which is my pride and joy, and I'm going to help these wrestlers not make the same mistakes that I have, and I'm going to get them to where I am a lot quicker than I've managed to get myself there from the experiences that I've had now. But yeah, it was an easy decision to make. I can't keep doing the same thing expecting a different result. I'm putting a timeline on what I want to do in wrestling, and I have to be selfish in that timeline, and that's why I need to be me now.
Well, absolutely, my friend. You take that bull and grab it by the horns, and you lead your journey. I mean, who knows? maybe even Leighton Buzzard, the El Capitan, might have to watch his back out for Andy Roberts. Or even knows, maybe even Great O'Khan, the Rev Pro British Heavyweight Champion, should watch his back out for you. I mean, would you go for the Rev Pro Championship?
I think that everybody has to watch out now, because I've managed to achieve more in 2 or 3 months as Andy Roberts than I achieved in years as Andy Wild. I've got more bookings outside of Scotland this year than I've had in the last 5 years. I'm going to be turning up absolutely everywhere. So absolutely everybody needs to be on their back foot with me.
Well, wrestling community, you have been warned. Stay on guard, stay on point, because Andy Roberts will turn up your door and knock you clean out for your belts.
Absolutely.
Now, Andy, you're talking about, obviously, your pride and joy, FITE Pro Wrestling Asylum. I want to know, how did that whole asylum come into its inception?
I've always liked to help people previous to the change recently. I've always been very willing to give my time and my experience to people over the years, and I've always liked to help people on their journey. In recent years, around 2019, I went out for dinner with Red Lightning and the late Lionheart, Adrian McCallum, and we were just chatting about it. We had just spoken about it, and I kind of said, like, oh, I've been thinking about opening a training school for some time now. They were like, well, listen, we've got a spare wrestling ring. If you want to buy it from us, we can help you get set up. Red Lightning, Rudo Lightning was very, very helpful in helping me get set up, and really made it easy for me to start the company, include me in on everything that I needed to know. And Adrian at the time had said, like, we FPWA instead of GPWA. It was just a passing statement. Then unfortunately Adrian passed away, as we all know. And in that moment, it was kind of one of those ones where I was just like, listen, life's too short to not pursue things that you want. I was working in the motor trade as a car salesman. I've got a young family, and I was trying to look at it and go, like, what can I do 60 hours a week for the rest of my life? See my family, wrestle around that, train around that, not really see my family all that much, watch my kids grow up through my telephone, because my partner Hannah would send me photos and videos. So we decided, myself and Hannah, that we're just going to do it. We're going to take the plunge and go for it. So we opened FPWA, and we've grown and grown and grown since. We now have 6 classes per week. We have approaching around 60 students training with us, traveling from Dundee, Perth, Glasgow, Edinburgh on a bi-weekly basis to train from us. So it's a dream come true. I love every part of it, but now obviously my focus has changed to make sure that they don't make the same mistakes that unfortunately I made for quite a long time.
Exactly. Course correct, my friend. Course correct. Getting them on the path that will elevate themselves and become better. Now, we've actually had some students of yours on the show, Ashley Vega and Daisy Jenkins, and they both talked how much they learned from it as well as some people down all over Scotland. You know, Emily Hayden came to FITE Pro Wrestling Asylum as well. I don't want to talk about Ashley and Daisy, you know, from seeing them train to what they've done now. You know, Ashley's done matches against Nicole Jasmine and all across over Scotland. Daisy made her debut on ICW and even the WWE Network. To see them two of your students do what they're doing now must be absolutely a sense of pride and accomplishment for them.
Oh, definitely. And I think one of the big parts about FPWA is I'm lucky enough and unlucky enough to have wrestled and trained in training schools all over the country for a very long time, from a time when female wrestlers weren't appreciated and weren't even taken seriously. You know, when I first started training, you wouldn't have had a female match on the show. If you did have a female match on the show, it would be just before the main event. You had a lot of females walking wrestlers to rings and things like that. But other than that, they weren't very well respected. So, and we had the speaking out and all that kind of stuff within British wrestling. So one of the main things with FPWA is I wanted to build a clean and safe environment for people to train in. And I pride myself on having an environment where female wrestlers feel that they can come and train and feel safe enough to learn every aspect of wrestling in this environment. And now to see how well that then translates into the speed in which they're progressing. You look at Daisy, she trained with me from the back end of COVID, when we couldn't even do contact training, to now, and I think she wrestled 15 times last year. She debuted in April, and by the end of the year, she had done, I think, she definitely got up into double digits. So she'd wrestled once and twice a month. She now looks at her diary for the next few months, and she's going to be wrestling regularly. So it's exciting. It's good to see that given female talent the same opportunities that male talent can have, that they're not behind. You know, they're not any different to male talent, which was, I think, perceived differently back in the day. Lucy joined on board with us. Excuse me, Ashley joined on board with us from Joe Hendry's school recently because she moved to the Fife area. She's an unbelievable talent, an underutilized talent, excuse me, which I think that her experience and her level of ability, if utilized correctly within the scene, could be really, really good. So I'd like to see her do a lot more this year.
No, absolutely. They've done well for themselves and great guests of the show as well. Now, the FPWA would actually have some shows as well. You know, I actually attended one as well the night before the wrestling, you know, and back in December. Seeing that show as well, you know, what did it mean to you to run in, obviously, the Truth nightclub in Leven? And I mean, I was there. The whole atmosphere was great. Everyone was loving it. The wrestlers were great as well. Putting on them kind of shows and seeing a great turnout and such a connection as well must be a great feeling.
Yeah, it is great. I think that running shows wasn't what I wanted to do. I wanted to teach people how to wrestle. But what you find is I'm pretty good at this. I'm pretty good at teaching people, and I've been humble for a very long time as a wrestler and as a person. But I don't feel embarrassed to say that I'm good at it. But what happens when you're good at coaching people is you get wrestlers to a standard that they're show ready quite quickly. In return, then you have to try and get them shows. And there's a load of other training schools doing exactly the same thing and getting their wrestlers to a level where they can do shows. You need somewhere for them to perform. So we had to pivot, we had to evolve, we had to do something else, and that was to start our own wrestling brand. But again, we take a lot of pride in how we do stuff, especially my partner Hannah. She's got a real eye for detail. And we said, if we're going to run a wrestling show, it's not going to be just a pop-up wrestling show where we've got, you know, the ring set up in a room and that's it. You know, it has to be done right. It has to be done well. And that's what we did. It was great to watch them on a show as well, where it was at the standard that I want them to wrestle at. You know, so I get they're in a venue that has 200 plus people with a bar and screens, and you know, it's just amazing. And also to stand there and go, oh, I taught them that. Oh, that was me. I did that. I got them. You know, I watched their mannerism. I watched the way that they react to the crowd. I watched the way they apply a hold or they counter their opponent. And it fills me with pride. I love every minute of it. I enjoyed so much on that first show just standing watching, that made me want to wrestle on the next show because I felt like I wanted to add something to the show. I wanted to show them, you know, I wanted to show off to my students. I wanted to say, like, look, this is what you did in your match in match one. Get changed and watch me in the last match, and I'll show you what I meant about how to apply this and how to do that. And it's been a great thing for us all. We're excited to be promoting these shows on a regular basis.
Of course, and well, you've got one coming up in March as well. You know, FPWA versus New Wave Wrestling Academy. You'll go through the card. I want to go through it each by bit just to get your opinions on them, and you know, seeing my viewers definitely got to tune in for all this. Mentioning now, guest of the show, Daisy Jenkins is taking on Danny Luna as well. That is going to be a hell of a match. Obviously,
it's going to blow your mind. Yeah,
I'm voting for the guest of the show, Daisy, to win this thing. But obviously, you know, getting Danny Luna, who was obviously in NXT UK, that's quite a hell of a match to put on the card.
Absolutely, and going back to what I said before, I want to get them to the point that I'm at quicker than I got there. How do we do that? We challenge them. We put them in the ring with people that are going to challenge them. It's very good getting Ashley Vega and Daisy to wrestle each other. They have a phenomenal match. They have an ongoing rivalry. It's great. But is it going to help either of them grow? Maybe Daisy will get the win on this one. Maybe Ashley will get the win on this one because they're pretty eeksy-peeksy in terms of experience and ability. What we need to do is put them in a position where they've got to fight. They've got to fight for their life. You know, they're in there. Daisy's going to be in there with somebody that's way more experienced than them, bigger, stronger, potentially faster than her, and has wrestled on a regular basis for the biggest wrestling company in the world. And she's doing it on year 2. So how can you not progress? How can you not get to the point where I'm at quicker than 17 years? You know?
Truly a test of challenge, as one will say.
Absolutely.
Then we have the Woke Academy versus the Greedy Souls as well. A lovely tag team match. Always love a good tag team match. You know, having a tag team match on the card, it's always a good staple to have because there's nothing wrong with a tag team. Tag teams are great. You know.
Yeah. I think the Greedy Souls are the best tag team in the country just now. They back that up by having most of the championship belts in the company when it comes to tag team wrestling. So Ross Hunter and Robbie Balfour have both trained with me since the inception of FPWA in 2019. But previously to that, one of our other coaches, Johnny Lyons, they trained with him from when they're about 14 years old. So speaking to Ross Hunter, he is now 20 years old. by the time he is 22, he'll have been training for 10 years. So some of these guys, I mean, he's unbelievable. He's ready to go. He's ready to get out there, but he needs to win some matches. He needs to go against people like the Greedy Souls, people like Danny Jones and Bronco. He needs to be challenged. These guys are men, these are big bruiser men. And if you can come out on top against them, how can you be denied after that? How can you message a promoter and say, look, we've wrestled these guys, here's the footage, we beat them? How can a promoter say, oh, sorry, no, we don't want you, we want somebody else? They can't.
Exactly. It's a statement in your portfolio that you can show off to promoters and get more bookings and showcase your talents all across the worldwide. Exactly.
Absolutely.
As well, we've got Talon Jr. versus Nico Angelico. This will be something as well. I'm not familiar with Talon Jr., but seeing that mask on him as well, the spikes and the red eyes, God, that's going to be a hell of a thing to see.
Yeah, Talon is unbelievable. What he can do in the ring, I don't think can be topped by any high flyer in the country, unsigned high flyer in the country just now. Different to other high flyers as well. Talon's not small. Talon's 6 foot. He's a big boy, and he can really move. He's got contract written all over him. If we can refine his skills and get him to where he needs to be, how do we do that? We'd put him against Nico Angelo, one of the best up and coming cruiserweights. I wouldn't even call him up and coming, actually. One of the best established cruiserweights in the country. He represents New Wave, and he's going to represent them well. He's got great coaches. Imagine turning up to a weekly class that's coached by Wild Boar, Mark Andrews, Eddie Dennis, Danny Luna, Bronco, Danny Jones. You've got, even if you just train with them, you roll around with them, get beaten up by them, you're going to get better. So having Nico in to wrestle Talon, again, there's growth and discomfort, isn't there? So we've got to make Talon uncomfortable to get these abilities out of him. We need to put him in a position where he has to pull absolutely everything out of the bag to win. And that's what we're doing with this match. So I'm really excited for it. I feel like this is the match that Talon is going to make Talon Jr. and is going to place him on the map in the UK.
Exactly. This is the one people will be looking back far and wide and making all the awesome video clips and everything, showcasing his journey. Then you've got a debut as well, Frank Gallo versus Jason Reed. Frank making his debut. Is that a bit of extra pressure, do you feel, for him, or do you feel like he's going to smash it?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of pressure for him. Frank lives just around the corner from the venue. He's lived around the corner he's lived in the area, the Leavenmouth area, his entire life. His friends, his family, his peers, everybody that he knows is going to be in that venue. Jason Reed put out his usual obnoxious challenges that he puts out, and Frank took upon himself to answer. So he is going to have to back that up. But I think I know, in fact, that he has the ability to do that. He's a maniac. I don't know if his videos illustrate that well, but he's off his head. You can't train for that match. Jason Reed is the best wrestler in the country for what he does. You can't take that away from him. Love him, hate him, whatever. I've got a mixed bag of feelings for him from our history, but he's a very good friend of mine, and he did what he had to do in our friendship to make me understand what I needed to do to evolve the same way I have over the years for him as a coach. That's another story. But you can't train for somebody like Frank Gallo. He's all over the place. It's going to be a real fight for Jason Reed. He has a lot of experience. He's very adaptable. But I feel Frankie Boy is going to bring something that Jason's never seen before.
Yeah, truly. Frankie's going to be off his rocker and really be rocking the ring as well. But then you have your kind of staple, the Fatal 5-Way, which is built on being the Fife's hardest man, with Tommy Cartel. And we know right now you've announced that guest of the show, Ashley Vega, has announced for the Fatal 5-Way. Kind of that match. How did that whole thing come into being? And can you give us an exclusive for maybe who might else be in the Fatal 5-Way?
Well, so for anybody that's been out for a night out in Fife, great place to have a drink. But if you spill somebody's pint, you may be in a fight with one person, or you may be in a fight with 10 people. It's one of those kind of areas, I feel, from my experience of growing up and whatnot here. So when I thought about coming up with a match that best described Fife, I thought, what about a match where you can win a match at any point? It starts as a one-on-one, it then becomes a 3-way, then a 4-way, then a 5-way, play on words, a 5-way. But you can win at any point. So if you, in those first 2 minutes, if you can pin that person, you've won. Same with the third minute. If you can win that 3-way, you've won. the other two people might not even get a chance to come out. So I think that translated very well into fights and pubs and clubs in the local area in Fife, because if you could be quick, if you knock that guy's pint over and he swings for you and you could be quick, you might be able to win that fight. You might not when all the friends and stuff join in. So yeah, that was my thoughts on that match, and it's been a real crowd pleaser. Everybody loves it. It crowned Tommy Cartel as the hardest man in Fife. It hasn't been the most the best thing for us, because all we have to hear about from him about how hard he is, and to be fair, he's doing well to keep that title. Ashley Vega's been the first person to say that, and I quote, "hard men don't last long" with her, which I thought was a real interesting thing to say. So I'm interested to see what she's gonna do to win this one. But yeah, we're looking at exclusives, and we've announced wrestlers from around the world, in fact, that are joining our show. They don't have a match just now. Maybe they'll find their way into the Fife way.
Ooh, we never know what surprises may lie upon the creek. But then, Andy, the main event. You versus previous guest of the show, Wild Boar, for your championship as well, which was just announced a couple of days ago. I mean, you've held this championship, the European Heavyweight Championship, for over 1,000 days as well.
Mm-hmm.
You must feel a lot of, pressure to, because you could lose this possibility to Wild Boar. Wild Boar's done some amazing stuff as well, but you going into that must feel confidence to face Wild Boar.
Yeah, I'm very confident. I don't feel pressure anymore. I've done everything that I wanted to achieve in wrestling except sign a contract with a major company. What I need to do now is beat people that have had contracts with major companies and prove to everybody around me that that's where I belong. Drew McIntyre had that belt. I've held it longer than him. I've also defended it more times than he did. The same with Rampage Brown. He had that belt. I've held it longer than him, and I've defended it more times than he did. There's two of the best heavyweights in the world. What does that make me? I've known Wild Boar since I started in wrestling. Wild Boar used to backyard with Mark Andrews when we first started training. I've seen every single match this guy's had, and I've got his number. I know what I need to do to win that match, and I'm going to do it in front of my friends. I'm going to do it in front of my family, and I'm going to retain my UEWA championship. And in the process of that, I'm going to get that footage. I'm going to send it to William Regal, and I'm going to say, this is why you need to offer me a job.
Exactly, my friend. You get your name out there, and you get signed, and you get into NXT or even the main roster straight away, and you take what's right for you. Well, hey, if our viewers who are in Scotland as well want to come and see, FPWA versus New Wave Academy, how can they get tickets for this event?
So you can go onto the Eventbrite app and type in FPWA, or you can follow the link tinyurl.com/FPWA New Wave. You can find those links on every video and every promo that we've posted on our social medias recently. If you can't find it, message us directly and we'll send you the link.
No more viewers. And we will put Andy's Instagram as well as FPWA's Instagram descriptions in the video description below. Check them out. Get your arses to this event because it's going to be an absolute banger. Well, folks, thank you very much for tuning in for the latest episode of the Soul Sessions. Andy, thank you as well for tuning in and telling us about your story and FPWA. But I do also want to say, every guest on the show, after this March show, is there anything else lined up for you that people can come see you?
Yeah, like I said before, you're going to see me absolutely everywhere. As of March time, those shows will start being announced. So far, I've been announced with Clyde Valley Wrestling. I'm not sure who I'm going to wrestle because I'm wrestling in the main event and I'm wrestling whoever the champion is when I get there. So I'll be in the main event, so get along to that one. That one's in Peebles. You'll also see me on a regular basis with the likes of Discovery Wrestling, ICW, and Fair City Wrestling throughout this year as well.
No, hey, man. And also, viewers, I will be at FPWA versus New Wave Academy. I'll be posting it all on the Instagram and showing it. So, hey, who knows what I'll be in store for. So many guests to the show, fighting against each other. Oh, just another staple of the Soul Sessions. But, hey, folks, thank you very much for tuning in. He has been Andy Roberts. I have been Soul. Thank you, everyone, and have a lovely day.